Welcome to my second episode of Rolling with Ray podcast. Today I will be interviewing a gentleman by the name of Jim Wallgren. I have known Jim the past 40 years. He is an advocate for people with disabilities. He's actually an author of a book called The Last Tackle. I first met Jim 40 years ago on the college campus of the University of Texas in Arlington. We were both in the rigorous wheelchair track and field program. We both received our college degrees and our actual college letterman jackets in athletics from UTA. Jim is married to his lovely wife, Janet. He has a set of twins, John and Aubrey. Jim is an avid traveler, likes to travel. He's a sports enthusiast. He is a retired engineer. And like I mentioned earlier, he just wrote a book called The Last Tackle. So it's my privilege and my honor to have Jim Wallgren on my podcast called Rolling with Ray. Jim, good morning.
Morning, Ray. Thank you for having me. And like I said, we've known each other a long time.
Yes, sir. So we're going to go ahead and start off, Jim. So can you describe or tell our listeners or our audience how you became a quadriplegic?
Yeah, sure. And in the spring of 1980, I was making a playing high school football in Garland, Texas, a suburb of Dallas there. And I broke my neck making a tackle on another player and had a spinal cord injury at my C5-6 level, and it's pretty much a complete injury. So I'm paralyzed from the chest down, similar to you, Ray, and been in a chair 42 years now.
Wow, it's unbelievable. It's, the longevity that you've lived in as a quadriplegic 40 plus years is just phenomenal. Jim, I'm just curious, do you ever have any contact with the guy who you made that last tackle with?
No, I really haven't, Ray. Uh, I knew the fella. He was on my team, but we weren't real close. We didn't really hang out in the same circle of friends, and but it was one of those things that he was playing hard and I was playing hard. Uh, when you're that age, we're just trying to get in front of the coaches to get noticed. It was a big 5A high school, and a lot of kids in that era played football or baseball was the two big sports in Texas. And so no, I really haven't had much contact or at all really ever since the tackle. I did try to reach out to him one time while I was in the hospital just to express those sentiments that we were both just trying to make a play, and I never held any ill feelings whatsoever.
Great. Thank you, Jim. The reason I'd ask that question is because I know I get a lot of questions, with regarding my accident. They always want to know, well, whatever happened to the guy, or do you still talk to the gentleman when you had your accident that was driving? And I just tell them, yes, we're still in contact and we're still friends. So there's no animosity or anything like that towards that individual. Jim, can you describe how you must have felt when you're in that hospital bed, not knowing your future? I know you were in a bed called a striker bed. I was on a bed called a rotor rest bed, which rotated side to side every 15 minutes to prevent bed sores or any blood clots. Can you describe what the feeling is, and can you tell our audience what a striker bed is?
Yeah, well, the the bed that I was on, because I did not have the fusion surgery that they do a lot nowadays. Uh, I had I was on a striker frame, is it what they called it? It was just a flat stretcher type bed, and after my accident, uh, they placed what they call a set of tongs into the side of my head, which put traction, uh, kind of looked like a horseshoe. It went on either side of right above the ears, and they're screwed into the head, and weights are attached to pull that neck out in traction. And then they slowly release the weights as the bones are the cervical disc are healing, and they redo it. I don't know if they do that much anymore. I don't really know what the techniques for stabilizing broken necks are, but when I
You
was at the time when I got hurt, it was a fairly common procedure. I know of a couple other guys over the years that had spinal traction. So the pain was excruciating putting it in. And, I was just barely 15 years old when I got hurt. And being in a hospital environment like that was totally new to me. To be honest, I was scared as hell. And I kind of describe in detail in the book just exactly how what I was going through and what I was feeling during the whole process. And it was,
So, Jim, so you're actually laying on your back, and then the striker bed, they actually flip you. And now, instead of looking at the ceiling, you're actually looking at the floor because all your
yeah, I
body's
mean, it
strapped,
was,
correct?
yeah, you get kind of like your roto bed that was adjusting for constantly moving you to prevent pressure sores and circulation and so forth. The striker frame kind of worked in the same manner, except they had to manually flip you like a pancake, just rotate you all the way around, uh, while the while the tongs and the weights are attached. There was a swivel, kind of like a fishing swivel uh, that would swivel with the bed. So it was. I could
Painful, I bet.
remember. Yeah, it was,
Very
and
painful.
you could feel when they flipped you around. You could feel every shock and every vibration going through the cable and the weight.
Jim, can you describe some of your challenges you have encountered? Like you graduated high school, and then you went on to college. Can you describe some of your challenges that you encountered, even at the college level or even after college?
Well, you know, kind of like you, Ray. It's just we got hurt in a time when ADA wasn't there. Uh, Buildings weren't required to have ramps and access and entryways, and so we went through a lot of kitchens to get to tables, or uh, had to be popped over curbs. Uh, those facilities that had ramps either just did it on their own, or they could have been loading ramps to get into buildings. So that was quite a challenge. Uh, right after high school, I went a couple of semesters to junior college up in the Dallas area. Then I decided to move over to UTA. And, to my parents' credit, I was driving, uh, and I did move away, and I'm sure that was hard for them, but allowed me to make my own mistakes and my own decisions. But it was very challenging in an era when disabilities, especially uh, people in wheelchairs, were just uh, kind of out of sight, out of mind type era. So we had to kind of push through that, and you just can't buy into the bullshit. I used to say.
Sure.
Uh,
So Jim, can you, we were both at UTA, and we were both in the rigorous track and field program, which was known nationally. I know we traveled all across the country and competing in wheelchair track and field. Can you describe to our viewers what like a typical workout was like, and how demanding it was from our coach, who was Jim Hayes? God rest his soul. He really pushed us to the limit. But can you actually tell our viewers how demanding and how physical the program was?
yeah, UTA was a really unique program, and you and I were lucky that we lived in it, so close to it. But Jim Hayes held us to a pretty high standard as far as workout demands. We would all load up, you know, assemble at a building, and he had staff there to help us transfer into our track wheelchairs. We had workouts 5 days a week. Uh, I bet we pushed 50, 60 miles around the track on the outside parking lots, and
Tell the
uh,
story. I tell the story too. When I go speak, I tell the story about the days that it was cold and raining, and we would think that, oh man, great, we're not going to go work out, but we would actually be out there in those conditions when it's raining, or whether it's below freezing. I mean, we'd still be out there pushing our 5-10 miles a day, just to get that endurance and that workout in, and it was very grueling. And I can remember those days, and like it was only yesterday. And yes, you are right. We were very fortunate to be in that type of program. I think that's one reason our longevity of being in quadriplegics for 40 plus years is because of our stamina and our endurance that we endured those during those early years of our life. Jim,
yeah,
thank you, and for sharing that story. I know you're married to the lovely Janet, and you have a set of twins, John and Aubrey. Can you tell us how and where you met Janet? Of course, I know the story, but I think our audience would love to find out.
yeah. Well, you're part of that story of us meeting. I met Janet in college. She was one of the volunteers, actually part of her grant program, was helping us with our wheelchair track team. And we started dating in college, and uh, kind of the rest is history. We've been married 34 years now, and she's only known me in a wheelchair. And we had twins, John and Aubrey, in 1993. Of course, they're grown, and my daughter lives in Seattle, and my son lives in San Antonio. But uh, yeah,
Audience, to our audience and viewers, because there's always this stigma that people that are paralyzed or that are in wheelchairs cannot have a family. You're a living example of that, to where you were paralyzed and y'all actually conceived a set of twins. So
yeah,
that's a phenomenal story, and I know your set of twins, and they're what? They're in their early 20s, mid 20s now,
Upper 20s.
upper
Uh,
20s.
They'll be 29. My son said I'm getting old. I said, well, if you're old, I'm getting older.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal story, Jim. You were talking about you had your accident during playing contact sports. If your children came up to you and said, "Dad, I want to play football," or would you let them play contact sports?
Well, I did go through that dilemma with my son, not exactly that way. I thought about that for a long time. And I've had parents ask me, especially mothers, uh, should my son play football or contact sports? And, football is a contact sport. There is a risk. Uh, I wouldn't, I wouldn't necessarily think I fully appreciated or understood the risk when I was growing up. But I think if you put ankle weights on me and whatever, I'd drag myself because I just really everything I was drawn to football. Even though I played baseball and all, it just had all the elements that really made me want to be out there and play. But fortunately, my son was musically gifted, and he went into band. And I always tell parents, I can't really tell you what to do, or wouldn't want to influence your system, your decision. But I think whether it's band or football or baseball, even chess or debate, having your kids involved in extracurricular activities, uh, I think is healthy, regardless of which endeavors, which passion you want. It could be writing for that matter. I don't think I fully appreciated that when I was a kid. So I see it now as a parent.
So you wrote this book that's right here on my desk called "The Last Tackle," and I've read it several times, and it's a real phenomenal story. I'm not going to go through each chapter, but can you tell us what inspired you to write this book, and if my viewers want to get a copy of that, where they need to go to get a copy of that? But can you just maybe cover some of the highlights of your book called The Last Tackle?
Yeah, sure, Ray. It was kind of a pandemic, no excuse. I've always had the book in mind of writing it, and then uh, the with the pandemic set in, I felt I had no excuses. But just like your story, Ray, a lot of us that came through that UTA program ended up really what I call pretty successful. A lot of us had careers, whether it was in insurance or parks and recs or system engineer, like the route I went. I felt, there was a good story there, and it wasn't easy getting there. We had significant challenges that we had to overcome and face going through that time period. And it doesn't matter whether you have a disability or not. Everyone is going to face adversity at some point in their lives. And at that point, uh, you can kind of develop this avoidance of failure or choices that you want to make to respond to that adversity. And sometimes you have to step into something that's very uncomfortable. And a lot of people avoid uncomfortable situations at all costs. So I thought with the book, my story and telling about um, different situations that I face that could help people feel more comfortable uh, of, of facing those challenges. I don't know if it's ever comfortable, but sometimes you have to fail a lot, learn from your mistakes on those failures, and step in a little bit uncomfortable. And hopefully, the book and my story can inspire people to keep trying, keep fighting, and get through those adverse times of adversity.
Awesome. Well, it's a phenomenal story. And where can the viewers pick up a copy of your book?
It's available through all the, Amazon and Barnes and Noble, mostly the online platforms order it books. I did self-publish the book, so it's available in all the just about all the retail outlets and just the last tackle and
Well, it definitely is a great book. I've read it several times, and it's just a phenomenal story. Jim, we've been quadriplegics for 40 plus years. 50 years ago, 60 years ago, that was unheard of. So, what do you contribute your longevity of living so long as a quadriplegic?
well, obviously, you're right behind me, and and we've talked about this for years. Um, we had a phenomenal, great support system, and I feel very fortunate. Um, it kind of touches me that the kind of support we've had over the years. Um, you and I had special relationships with our father that uh, was really helpful. My dad really stepped up in a big way to help me. My parents in general, my mother, uh, the example I gave and just the courage they had to let me live, my life. And uh, I think a lot of that longevity is you try to surround yourself by people that a lot of why you can't do something, and it's like let's figure out how we can. And I've traveled, I've converted RVs and boats and all those kind of things, and I couldn't have done it without people willing to step in and help. As you know, that's a big part of longevity, and like I said, you can't shy away from failure because I've made a ton of mistakes. Uh, I've failed at a lot of things, and you chalk them up, you try to learn from them, and move on, move forward with your life. And I won't say it's been easy. I've had my down days, but I feel like I've had uh, a pretty good gift of vision, the way I want things to be and how to get there. And you do that by surrounding yourself with positive people to get there for you.
Well, you definitely have faced adversity, and you've overcome your injury, and had a successful career, family. That's just an awesome. I mean, you've lived life to its fullest, and very proud of you that what all you've accomplished and what you've done. Jim, one last questions before we wrap it up. If for our followers and our listeners out there, what would you give one advice to uh, to people who are going through some tough times?
Well, Ray, I've always cherished our friendship. I got to say, you're the first, really the first guy, quadriplegic guy in a wheelchair that we've become real good best friends over the last 40 years. And my biggest advice is uh, adversity happens to anyone everywhere. None of us are immune from disability and that and how you respond to that a lot of times is up to you. And uh, it's it's a hard uh, it's a hard thing to learn and go through, but I've always tried to look, and I've always gotten through those times, and I know it's going to be okay. Uh, One thing I didn't count on is when you're young and so forth, you don't think about the older when you're getting older, and so we're feeling those effects earlier in life with the 43 years of paralysis. And but I always I've got a few circle of friends that really understand what we're going through day to day, and I consider you right on top of the list.
Well,
And I
Jim,
appreciate that.
Jim, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for being on my podcast, Rolling with Ray. You're actually my first guest, but my second episode. So I really appreciate you being the first guinea pig to be on my on my show. So thank you very much. Tell Janet hello and the kids hello for me, and Gus and your mom. Tell everybody hello for me. Um, so that's the edition of this or the episode of Rolling with Ray. Make sure you follow me on my YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, and again, Rolling with Ray. And until we meet again, thank you so much.